a Build Hatch developed production.
Hello, I'm Aaron Kyle and welcome to another episode of Build Hatch. On this week's episode of Build Hatch, I had the opportunity to sit down with an incredible builder on the Mornington Peninsula of Victoria, Jamie Rowler of Rowler Construction. It's not every day or even every episode for that matter that I get to sit down and have a chat with a leading perfectionist builder on the Mornington Peninsula. Jamie is such a genuine and humbled builder, and like I said, this was an opportunity to sit down in this truly amazing home of one of his actual clients. And I have to say how nice it was to enter this beautiful family home and meet Jamie's clients face to face. These guys were so impressed with Jamie's work, and as you'll get to hear on this week's episode, it's not surprising. And if you want to hear about all the details that go into a leading builder working his way up, growing as a person and as a business, this episode is for you. Like I said, it's no surprise Jamie and his team are building some amazing architectural and custom design projects on the beautiful Mornington Peninsula. This was a truly amazing sit down, so let's get into it. Jamie Rowler from Rowler Constructions, welcome to Build Hatch.
Thanks for having me, Aaron. Very excited.
That's okay. Now I'm really excited because we're sitting here in your recently completed Mount Martha project and you giving me a tour and all the finishes and the quality of the build looks astonishing. But before we talk about that, we always like to go back to our guests' history and where they grew up. So we're recording this on the fabulous Mornington Peninsula, which I absolutely love this place. So did you grow up on the Mornington Peninsula?
Yeah, I grew up in Rosebud, a bit further south. Lived there and then moved to Rye as I sort of left school, I guess. Grew up in Rosebud, mum, dad, my sister and I. It was a great childhood actually.
And what sort of upbringing, like were you sort of a studious student or what were you like as a kid?
I was a pretty good kid. Dad is a builder as well, so I was always going to head towards a trade. We had a timber yard as well, so I spent all of my childhood like in a timber yard growing up. Hit secondary. I was good with maths and science, and all of my family, like my cousins, my uncles, they're all carpenters. So it was in the DNA. So I went, no, I'm not doing that. And I went and did a mechanical apprenticeship.
You rebelled.
I did, yeah, for once in my life. And just hated being inside. So completed my time and then went and worked for Dad. So I did my time with him.
So you did an apprenticeship, like carpentry apprenticeship?
Yeah, with Dad, yep. So his father is a builder as well. So
it's a third generation
builder, yeah, which was pretty cool. So yeah, just started with him, went and worked for I've worked for probably 10 builders when I was a young guy, and then went out my own subcontracting.
Did your dad sort of push you off to other builders to get a bit of external experience?
Yeah, and also if he had quiet patches, like he'd send me to our cabinet maker and I'd spend 2 weeks with them making the kitchen for the house we were building. So that was good. I got a good base, like an all-round base. And like my old man, he's my mentor. He's got a wealth of experience in he's old school, concreting, everything, site cuts, excavation. So it was a really good education in becoming a carpenter/builder later on. So yeah, it was really good.
So you were always destined to be a builder or involved in construction then?
Yeah, 100%.
I guess having that experience, and I talk to a lot of guys who grew up in that environment where, if like you said, if Dad was busy, he had the contacts and the network to be able to say, righto son, go work for so-and-so for a little while.
Yep. Like I would even help the roof plumber out, help the drainage guys, help the brickies. So yeah, it was a really good all-round apprenticeship.
And what about subcontracting? So with that, did you start off working as a carpenter, like a subby?
Just, I guess, after my apprenticeship, started working for other builders as a subby, and loved it. But I'd only last 2 years most because I'd just get itchy feet. So that was good because then I got to work for other builders and then kind of found a niche where I started working for high-end builders. Like I really love the architectural stuff, the high-end stuff. And I don't know, I've always wanted to be the problem solver on site. So I kind of got a bit of a name for myself as a good high-end carpenter. So then I had some builders chasing me to work for them, and that lasted about 10 years, I guess, and then just realised I need to work for myself. So I studied and got my DBU, which is, apart from my family, it's one of the proudest days of my life getting that.
It's a hard thing, isn't it? Like people,
so hard.
And even around Australia, like, to be fair, I cover New South Wales and Victoria, and still to this day, from what I've seen, the Victorian DBU, trying to get your license, the whole lot, it's extremely high.
Yeah, I think also because for the exam, they're so vague in what they're going to test you on. So you need to know a bit about everything. And so the studying for that was just off its head. Like, yeah, the stress level drive, because I did it in Docklands and driving up there, just sweating bullets. But yeah, honestly, coming out of that, and the instructor said, "I'm not meant to tell you, but you've got it," was just one of the proudest moments of my life. Drove home with a big goofy smile on my face. So that was cool.
So what about from then? Once you knew, or you were reasonably confident that you were going to have your builder's license, how did you sort of set about networking and looking for opportunities?
After I did my apprenticeship, Dad and I worked together on and off. He'd help me or I'd help him, and we did work for a drafty on his own house in Balnarring, and that was the best thing I've ever done, because from that, probably 8 years ago, that's where I get 90% of my work still from Rod Hanna and Associates. So, it's cool because if clients come to me and say, "Oh, Rod Hanna has suggested or, said you can build this house, what's your affiliation with him?" When I tell them I built Rod's house, and he's a high-end architectural draftsman, it goes a long way. They sort of, "Oh, you built his house." So that's it's better than any business card, that's for sure.
Yeah, look, I say this every week, and for those that listen to this every week, they'll hear me say it every week, but word of mouth referral, even and early relationships, they're the two critical findings, I guess, if you could put it like that, out of sitting down, talking to people over the years, is the early network and word of mouth referral.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I didn't put enough stock into that when I was first starting out as a builder. You do the job, you get paid, you go on to the next one. Client relationships has become a real feature for me and our building company now, because one, I really enjoy it. Like when I hand you the keys and I see the smile on your face, it's amazing. Like when I handed these guys the keys, Christine started crying. It was real cool. But so what it's done then is it flows on to, they'll now tell people about this job, and I've got work across the road because of these guys, gave me a big recommendation. So it's better than any ad I've ever placed, the client relationships.
Well, that stood out from the start, because as soon as I walked in, knocked on the door, and you're standing there with Christine, and Christine first said, "Welcome to my home," and Jamie's done a wonderful job, and and I know you didn't pay her to say that, so and you guys were nice enough to give me a tour. So speaking of this house, like, we're obviously sitting here, and you gave me a tour earlier, and like the finishes are outstanding. So tell me a bit of background, like how did you come across Christine, the client, and her husband, and how did that sort of early relationship start out?
So this was another recommendation from Rod Hanna and Associates, but the plan for this house, like this was sort of version 3. So originally it was much bigger, and they had it quoted by a couple other builders and realised it's out of their budget. So they went back to the drafty and got it a second sort of an amendment on it and got it sort of downscaled. And then that's when I came on board. I was one of the 3 builders quoting it. And price-wise, I was in the middle, which is a nice place to be. But they just said to me from the initial meeting, "We felt comfortable with you." So then once we worked out we're going to work together, I helped them, I guess, get the plans to where it needed to be to meet their budget. Because we sort of reverse engineered it. I knew what their budget was, but I had to make the plans work to that budget. So that was...
And that's a risky exercise.
Yeah. You still don't know you've got the job, essentially, but all you're doing is going off gut feel. I had a really good feeling about these guys. And then, so once we basically said, yep, they're going to go with us and pay the deposit, I spent a lot of time and effort into fixtures, fittings, just trying to put money where it needs to be and save money where we could. And it reached their budget, so they were stoked.
So what was that involvement like? So I guess you had sort of given them the confidence, and the people listening to this will wonder those early conversations, and I say it all the time, sometimes you just go off your gut.
Yep.
And it's like I could tell walking in here you guys got along.
Yep.
There was a genuine connection there.
Yeah.
And you have a sincere personality, so sitting down, you're the man of my word type person.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I guess that's come from my dad too. Like he used to do jobs on a handshake.
yeah, the old school principles.
Old school. Like
Yeah.
as you know, we don't do that anymore. But there's something to be said for standing behind your word. You know, if you say you're going to do something, then you do it. And I think people really appreciate that. So Craig, the owner, he's all about spreadsheets and numbers. So I knew I had to hit that side with him, you know, emails and site meetings. Whereas Christine's more the emotion driven. So her and I would talk colours and textures and fittings, and it just worked really well with both of them. It was a really good relationship.
Yeah. It's good you had that foresight, because with Craig probably busy working, he cares about the numbers, like you said, and the targets and the hard targets. Whereas Christine, you could kind of work with and be more flexible and open and try and work as a team with the day-to-day type stuff.
I think being in the trade too, you learn, well, I certainly did, learn to read people like straight up. So my initial meeting, I kind of worked out that's their personality styles, and you kind of, you can work it out pretty quickly how you need to be for both people. Not that it's fake, but it's just I need to spend more time with Christine on the softer approach, whereas Craig is budget, numbers.
Yeah, that's the emotional intelligence.
Yeah, I think that's just experience. I didn't have that when I first started as a builder. You know, it was that's the price, that's the job. Thank you very much. And then since then learning that's why my relationships with clients have gotten so much better.
Is there a favourite part of your job that you just absolutely love?
The last couple of years, it's turned really client focused. You know, I've been a carpenter for 25 years and I love it. I've really enjoyed being the builder. So yeah, having that one-on-one with the clients and forming the relationship over a job, seeing things come to fruition, problems arise, we fix them, and handing the keys over and they're stoked. It's just that real client relationship.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about this actual project? Like, is there a highlight on this job that you absolutely love?
It's hard to say because there's so many good things.
Who did the interiors on this job?
So Christine did that.
Christine, the owner, did it.
Yeah, she's got a background in interior design.
You can tell.
You can tell, yeah, it's stunning. I love the floors. The floors go really well. The VJ lining, the wall panelling.
So it's Hamptons inspired.
Yeah, it's sort of coastal Hamptons, I guess. So it sits really well on the block. You know, we're only 500 metres from the beach. It's hard to pinpoint one thing, but I just love the finish of the job.
And it's nice and quiet too. Like, yeah, feels really cool being in here.
Yeah.
So what about inspiration? Like, is there anyone that inspires you, that gives you the drive and determination every day?
I guess part is my wife and family. Like, I've got 2 young boys and a beautiful wife. So again, because I'm a bit old school, I like being the provider, I guess. So, you know, my wife's an excellent backup in the business. She does a lot of the back end stuff, the books, but she kind of lets me do my own thing with work as well. And she can see how much, because I have a real passion for building. Like, I just love it. And I love getting up and going to work every day. But it's cool that then, you know, when she came through this job a couple of times with my 2 young boys, and she's just like, I'm really proud of you. So that's cool, you know.
Yeah,
I get
pat on the back.
I get a pat on the back for doing a job that I love. So it's sort of double winning. And then I guess, as I said, yeah, my dad's a mentor. My dad's 70, I still will show him plans and how do you think this, or just running things by him. He's probably a good mentor for work.
Tell me about Rowler Construction. So you guys predominantly work on the Mornington Peninsula?
Yeah, we do. So this side, sort of Mornington, Mount Martha, and then the bulk of our work is the other side. So Flinders, Summers, Balnarring Beach. Yeah, we've done probably 80% of our work over that side.
Yeah, it's a great part of the world to to work in the construction industry.
Yeah.
And it's very tight knit. So everyone knows everyone, and
Yep.
it's very in somewhat old school where relationships build on good old fashioned relationships. And
trade relationships. You know, I won't get guys that I don't know, because I know if I'm not on site, the client has to speak to the trade and be comfortable with them. So that's where, you know, I always use local guys. I support Bowens in Hastings. They're our local timber supplier. I've got a good relationship with them, and they help me out whenever they can. So it kind of just adds to our company, I guess, why you want to use us.
I really like that, because it's so easy for you or others to go to Bunnings or Mitre 10 but to have that relationship with the local hardware store, which is owned and operated by a family, and to talk to those guys, and we'll support you, you support us. Like, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, and they'll go above and beyond for, you know, different products. And, you know, on the next build we're doing in Mount Eliza, we're using that Dincel walling system. We've got a heavy cut for an excavation for a garage, and so they're sending reps out, you know, to run us through the product and just hold your hand on the first day. Like, it's all these little things that help strengthen that relationship, which is why I sort of stay loyal. Pricing is important, but it's not everything.
How do you price your projects? Like, if a client approaches you and says, hey, you did a really good job with your Hamptons-inspired Mount Martha job, how do you price those projects?
So I use Build Exact, an estimating software, and just break it down. You know, I'll get my trades or my sub-trades, plumbers, sparkies to quote, and then I'll go through the Carpentry Labor, and just you basically build the house in your head, in your office, and just break it down, which is good and bad, because you're building it in a nice warm office in your head, and then you come on site and you get clay from the excavation, and, you know, Carpentry Labor always blows out.
I always ask every builder that comes onto the show, how do you accurately estimate Carpentry Labor?
Because I don't think that's such a thing.
There isn't, is there? It's just by gut and feel, you know. Just
look, I was given advice from a builder years ago. He said, once you sign a contract, throw your carpentry estimate in the bin, because if you ever look at it, it'll hurt.
You just hope for the best.
You hope for the best. Look, it swings and roundabouts at the end of the day. You can pick up in some areas and lose, but you always lose on Carpentry Labor, always.
How has the influx of people relocating from Melbourne to come down to the beautiful Mornington Peninsula and sort of commit to working from home a couple of days a week, how has that impacted business in construction?
Massive. Like, real estate's gone through the roof in the last, like, through COVID, and it's now we're starting to see the flow on. A lot of high-end renovations, people have bought houses, you know, they can't, because land's so hard to get, so they've bought a house and want to renovate. Still some new houses too, but yeah, construction has come through really strong through COVID, which was good, because it was difficult to build through COVID.
It was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this would have been built right in the
heart
crux of it.
Yeah, I remember when we broke ground, the concreter and I, we were setting out for the garage slab, and we weren't sure. That was a Friday. We weren't sure if we were going to work on the Monday. We were thinking 2-week lockdown. For me, COVID worked really well, because what it did, because we were allowed 5 trades on site at once, it reaffirmed for me scheduling. So, as you know, trades tend to come and go as they please. Yeah, I'll be there Monday and you won't see them for a week or whatever. Because it was $100,000 fine if you went over the 5 people on site, I had to be a real Nazi with it. So I got to plan the month. So it was awesome. So, plaster finished, painter 2 days later. It worked, like clockwork. So I loved it.
So yeah, you were able to get that buy-in too. And that's what I mean. Like, it's changed the way people feel and act, and even towards clients, towards builders, towards employees and subbies, where people are more accepting to working for you. So if Jamie says, look, I really need you here, because if you don't, I can't get the painter in, no worries, Jamie, I'll come to the party, I'll help you out.
Yeah. I mean, it's that thing too, like, because I was a subcontract carpenter for so long, and I understand cash flow. So if my trades give me a bill, it's paid that night. Because if there's ever a problem and I ring the phone, they answer, and they're always helping me out, because I always pay well. And then the flip side to that was with COVID, it's like, boys, you've just got to help me out. We need to work together. It's that or you sit at home on the couch. It's your choice.
Yeah, it comes back, doesn't it?
Everyone was great. And then it actually probably meant more client interaction with Craig and Christine because it's like, well, this is what we're dealing with. You know, everything slows a bit because we can only have 5 on site. But I don't know, it just helped us form an even stronger relationship, I think.
Moving forward, so you completed this amazing project for Craig and Christine.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of marketing did you do with this one? Like, did you have a sign out the front or did you promote it on social media? What did you do?
To be honest, because I've got all of my work, or 90% of my work from referral from that one draftsman, I've never advertised ever. So I think it hit that point, like with COVID, things did slow for a little while work-wise. So it's only been the last 6 months that I've just started social media and marketing stuff, like, where I should be. I'm a typical builder. I'm not good with social media and all that sort of stuff. I'm not like some of the young boys. So,
but also you're heavily focused on your day-to-day business.
Yeah.
And so I want to use this as an example. You have done an incredible job for Craig and Christine. How has that worked in terms of referral for you?
So our next job, which we start next week, is 5 houses down the road. So they saw us on social media and were interested in us, but were walking past and just popped their head in and said, what's your relationship like with your builder? And they gave us a massive rap. So then that kind of was the catalyst for me now. We're going to get photos and video done of this place. Just start pushing it a bit more and really trying to focus on that client testimonial just to get some integrity behind it. Because, I find builders marketing, it's so bland. We can all say we're honest, we're hardworking. Everyone says that. I guess you need honest testimonials behind you. And that's one of the things I'll really get with these guys.
As you said too, like the proof's in the pudding.
Yep.
So it's all well and good to say those things, but to actually have a project that comes from this project, 5 houses down the road, like it's amazing how just by keeping a clean site, looks good out the front, and then just going above and beyond. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. Even if it costs you a little bit of change out of your hip pocket to go above and beyond for the client, that relationship going forward, that becomes an early relationship again, because that relationship 10 years looking back, that's provided food on the table for your lovely wife and your 2 kids, and it's just kept you going for the next 10 years. And what people don't understand in construction, and particularly I guess if you wear your broad goggles where you're looking from a builder's perspective, not just a single trade base, but that produces 9 months, potentially 12 months, maybe even 18 months, depending on the complicated project or the inherent design aspects of it. But we're not talking a couple of months' work. This is a year and a half potentially. Yeah,
and I guess because, a lot of trades, sparkies, plumbers, they need a lot of work to keep them going. Like you said, we can be holed up for 9 or 10 months. I think also if you can build on those client relationships and referrals, the hope is then when someone comes to me with a quote or a tender for plans, it's not a cold lead, it's a warm lead, because, Craig and Christine recommended you and we know them and we trust them. Still in 2021, I think people really highly regard word of mouth over advertising. So, if that's something that we can just keep going forward with, is trying to build that client relationship. So I think it'll pay dividends.
But isn't it funny how everything we've sort of spoken about in the last 5 minutes, it's not really going that far above and beyond. Like, you're not having to employ someone to do that. You're not having to go learn and study how to do it. It's just you having a good look in the mirror, living by the principles that you had from a young age, passed on down from your grandfather and then your father, and just gone above and beyond. Just those little 1%ers, they go a long way.
Yeah, I think growing up, like when you're a younger carpenter, you do your work, and that it's just the difference between a carpenter and a builder is so massive, but it's hard to sort of articulate. It's all those little 1%ers that you don't, when you're a carpenter and you see the builder and he's like, what's he doing now? He does nothing. You know, it's that old tunnel vision thing. Everybody does it. The builder will leave at 10 in the morning, you're like, he's going to do nothing. And then you get your builder's license and you're like, now I know what he was doing. I'd pay to go back to those easy days.
Yeah, a lot of people do. It becomes too much, and they don't think about all those other aspects that are involved and the client interactions and all the other issues. So you mentioned earlier about being known or referred to as the problem solver carpenter. So what are the differences? Like for people listening to this and thinking, well, what's the difference between an architectural carpenter or / builder versus sort of a non-architectural? What are the main differences?
You've got to be able to think 5 steps in front. What I'm doing now, like, don't just look at it as an insular thing. Think about what the flow-on effects are, especially on those high-end jobs where, you know, everything is to the millimetre, like even plumbing set-outs, tile set-outs, everything. There's so much to think about. It's not just framing a wall. You know, there's, well, what's the joinery going to be doing? Where are the lights sitting? That and just having a real problem-solving brain. You know, anyone can build a house, but it's being able to get around problems that come up on site every single day. And that probably gave me a good grounding for being a builder, because half the time, because I'm on the tools still, but, you know, a lot of the time the trades are coming up. What are we going to do here? How are we going to do this here? You've got a basic understanding of all trades. So that was going back. That's what helped me when I was a carpenter. I had a basic understanding of what every trade's doing.
So I guess from a carpenter's perspective, that's the difference between, I guess, building a wall and understanding that I better check with the plumber, is there a concealed cistern going in this wall?
Exactly.
Because I might have to move a noggin.
Yep.
Things like that.
Yeah, and when you are sort of more doing that higher end stuff, it's slow, but it's because you're thinking so much about and checking with other trades and referring to the plans. Like if you're just building a straight Metricon, you can build it with your eyes shut. You know, it's the same stuff every day. But just thinking outside the square, you know, things take time, but when you walk away, you don't have to go and do things twice. And now that I'm the builder, that's what I want. Comebacks cost money. If you take a bit of time and fix it now, happy days. You know, labour's the thing that kills builders.
That's right. Have you ever had like a challenge on site that you thought, this is really difficult, how am I going to be able to build this or solve this problem?
Yeah, probably the most challenging one. We built a house, a 2-story townhouse down in Martha Cove, and it was on a 300 square metre block, 40 square house, houses on each side, so we were sort of locked in. So the logistics were really difficult for a start, because you get a timber delivery, where are we going to put it? Wherever you put it, that's where the job goes. But when we came to lay the second story floor, and we did flick out, and we were looking at the measurements going, something's wrong here. This bathroom's like 200 mil too small. It took me an hour to work it out. We'd had our second child like 7 weeks before that time. I did all the steel drawings myself, because as a carpenter, I'm a control freak. I was running on like 3 hours sleep, like for the week. Like our son was a terrible sleeper, the poor bugger, and I made a mistake with the steel for downstairs. So when we came, we've framed it, we've put up all the floor joists, and it was like, son of a beast. So then you lose your temper for a bit, and then it's like, right, I reckon I can do it with some beams, blah, blah, blah. Got the engineer on site. He had a laugh, fixed it. But that was probably the worst, most challenging thing I've had. Everything else is within reason, has gone pretty well to plan, because I've got a pretty visual brain, so I drive to work and I'm building things in my head. So when I get to work, I'm streets ahead of where I need to be, because I've thought about it. I can't turn my brain off.
How do you handle looking ahead with projects? Like, how do you balance that juggling act of managing an inquiry and then sort of taking your current job, thinking, well, I've got to finish this, or managing that sort of crossover?
Yeah, it's difficult, I guess.
Because it doesn't work. It's not perfect where you have one job finish on Friday and another one starts Monday. Like it's actually a challenging. It's probably one of the most challenging aspects that I see in construction.
Yeah, look, I think early days I probably went through some quiet periods because I was always worried about that. It's like, right, well, we've got this job on, but that one's going to start. So we'd have a couple of weeks where we'd have to go on subcontract for other builders to keep us going. Whereas now it's just say yes to everything and make it work. And I've got
work it out later.
Yeah, pretty much. Just say yes to everything because being quiet is the worst thing in the world. So just say yes to everything.
And it just seems to work out, doesn't it? Within reason.
And look, if you've got a good relationship with clients and yet are open with them and tell them we won't be there for 2 weeks because we're still finishing this one. If you're open, most of the time they're up for it.
Yeah, people understand if you're honest and upfront with them and keep them in the loop.
Yeah, it's when you don't say anything, that's when things turn south. Whereas, if you're upfront, lots of email correspondence on the phone, most people are happy with it.
So what's on the cards next for Rowler Construction?
So we've just started a renovation in Mount Martha for an interior designer, which is pretty cool. She actually we got that job through Instagram, which is a first. And then we start another.
So how cool is that? Like,
awesome.
That would have been a great feeling.
It was great. And my Instagram hasn't been great in the past because it's been done by a builder. So it looks pretty clunky. And then we've got another good renovation, the one down the street. And then we've got a new house to build in Mount Eliza starting in about 3 months. That will be cool. So working with the clients on that, just trying to use some different materials and, long span LVL timber for bearers and joists, like 11 metres, just trying to cut down on waste and, again, maximise their budget.
I think looking at this project being a Hamptons-inspired job, and we were talking earlier about, like, Hamptons is highly sought after, that look, and sometimes it can't be pulled off the way that it should be. Like, it just doesn't work out, but you've done an exceptional job with this one. And particularly considering there was a draftsman that designed it, so to have that relationship to take it from that level to the completed product, it's a excellent feat. Like, it's a credit to you.
Well, this is the second sort of coastal Hamptons one we've done for Rod Hanna Design. We did a big one in Balnarring Beach about 2 years ago. There was like 80 squares, massive, and I think these guys also saw that I did that, so they could see, well, he's got experience with it. Hamptons, it's that thing, if you don't get the details right, it looks like a Metricon. So I'm really details focused, and so are my guys. We're just millimetre men. So if you can nail the details and, obviously good painter and finishers, it looks really classy.
Yeah, and shout out to the painter too.
Craig Boyd's done a great job.
Fantastic job. So I'm really interested to know, being a third generation builder and having it in your blood, what's it like with change, with having the traditional grandfather and then father? How do you sort of manage that with modern business coaching or modern building? Yeah,
look, as I said, I learnt everything through Dad. Like, his original quotes were one page. So when he started seeing the detail that I went in my quotes, he's like, I don't know why you do that rubbish. But I found I hit that point where I knew I had some things that I wasn't good at in business, being a carpenter. So I have started a business coaching course, and that's just changed my whole world. Like, it's all the cliches, but it's all knowing your numbers. Just changed the whole way of thinking. I think that's probably why I'm so client relationship focused now too, because it's that thing, like, you have to work so hard to get new leads, but referrals from existing clients goes so far. It's honestly been the best thing I've ever done work-wise. I wish I had have done it when I first started, because builders are a funny mob. They don't like to help people like other builders. It's kind of like, you'll work it out, son. So you learn by mistakes, and mistakes cost you money. So, that would probably my one regret is when I first got my DBU, I would have done like a business coaching or a mentoring course just to set me on the right path.
Yeah, I think it's the things that you don't learn along the way, and it also, from me being involved in it as well, is it forces you to be held accountable.
Yep.
And it's one thing to read a book. I mean, how often Christmas time, January, it's a perfect opportunity to read a book. I love that time of year. But unless you have someone that's going to hold you accountable,
Yep.
it just, you finish the book, you sort of follow the principles for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and then it wears off.
And it falls by the wayside.
It does.
Yeah.
So it's about that leadership and that accountability
Yep.
and keeping you on that path. And the true way of being able to measure the success of that is to look at where you've come from to where you are now and then where you're heading.
Yeah, and I guess I've always wanted to like scale the business. So it was a case of, well, how am I going to get bigger and still be able to stay on top of it? So then like with business coaching, I've learned a lot of, it's all, as you know, it's all about systems. So putting things in place now so that we can take on more jobs, run concurrently, have more guys and me be across it. So, the plan for me is to get off the tools pretty well, not full time, but pretty well 80% of the time, and focus on the business, focus on chasing work, playing the builder more instead of playing the carpenter. Because I've done carpentry for 25 years. I've loved it, but once you realise you don't need to be the best carpenter on site anymore, it's actually a really nice feeling to go, I'm still building houses, I'm just not banging in nails.
That's right. Yeah. And it's not an easy thing to pull back, is it?
Well, because it's ego. For me, I love being the best carpenter on site. It's an ego thing, 100%. So once I realised that, I've just grown as a builder and a small business owner.
Yeah, look, it's an essential thing. And as I said, it's not always measured in metrics either. It's a way of looking at how's my family life since I've started doing this? How's my business life?
Yep.
How's my health and well-being?
Yep.
And how do my numbers look? Like
Yep.
it's a mixture of all of those things. So if everything's heading, not necessarily in a straight line, but,
Yep.
Going up that mountain, then it's working out. And
I think that's the thing too for me with two young kids. Like before we had kids, I could work 40 hours on the tools and work every night. My wife wasn't happy with it, but I wasn't fully accountable. Once you have two young kids, it's a different ball game because, there's no way you're going to get away with. And I was doing like 80 hours a week, and it's just not sustainable. Hence why I made that mistake with the steel when my young fellow was born. So now it's like, well, stick to what you're good at. Do a lot of work in the office during the day so you can be with your wife and kids at night and Saturdays. So it's been great. It's been a real change, a whole change in the way in my mindset.
Yeah, your whole outlook to life.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's so true. Jamie, it's been really nice to sit and have a chat with you and sitting here in this amazing, beautiful home. And as I said, I walked in, the client was there willing to greet me and was a genuine
she's
smile
lovely.
and what a nice person. So thanks for coming on to Build Hatch. And
No
if anyone wants to get into contact with you, Instagram's the best way to go about it.
Yeah, Instagram really, which will sort of feed you to our website, rollerconstruction.com.au.
All right, well, thanks again. It's been really nice to sit down and have a chat with you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Well, that was another Build Hatch episode with Jamie Rowler from Rowler Construction. And a special thank you to his wonderful clients who were nice enough to provide a personal tour showcasing Jamie's work. As usual, please check out our Instagram page and other socials where you'll be able to learn more about our guests and the features of the work that we talk about. Have a great week, and you'll hear me again on the airwaves next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of Build Hatch.
You have experienced a Build Hatch developed production.